Today on Show Us Your Dinghy, Conrad shows us his home-built Aluma-Dink.
Man, I got a big dinghy, all I ever do is smile. Lord, I got a big dinghy, all I ever do is smile. Man who's got a big dinghy can go the extra mile. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm Conrad. I'm traveling with Meredith and our cat Chinola on sailing vessel Tla Hla. We left from Wells, Vermont 3.5 years ago and have been voyaging since. And this is our dinghy Puff.
What kind of dinghy is that, Conrad?
It's an alu dink designed by Wave Dancer Yacht Designs. And I think it's maybe the 4th one that I know about that's been built, but there's a few of them out there.
And who built it?
I built it from a bunch of old scrap I had, for the most part. Dividers from my old livestock trailer.
This is really quite a project. So this is a welded dinghy, a welded aluminum dinghy.
Yes, and it is heavier than designed by, it was supposed to be 1/10 of an inch material and it's 1/8 inch material.
Yeah.
But it's rugged.
It'll bounce off some rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long is it?
11'8" the way I've built it. I've altered the designs a little bit.
Yeah, we always do.
Yeah.
And how much does it weigh?
Approximately 250 pounds is my best guess from doing the calculations of the weight of the materials from the original one to 1/8 inch, and also the fact that I was able to bring it in and out of the cradle when I was building it by myself. So 250 pounds I think is pretty accurate without the rudder, the oars, the mast, the sails, the centerboard.
That's actually very light. I would have maybe guessed more because our 12-foot aluminum boat, which is riveted, you know, and thinner, weighs 200. So yeah. But I guess it's a bit narrower.
Yeah.
It's still that's a good weight. Apparently, it works well anyway.
Yeah.
And what can you carry in it? How many people? And
we've never even come close to being loaded. We were taking some good friends of ours to town and back every trip we went while they were waiting for a new dinghy for quite a while, and we were sailing with a lot of weight, shall we say. So she performed very well.
Okay.
Maybe the outboard's a little bit on the small side for when she's totally loaded, 1 horsepower or whatever it is, but it works well. It gets us to windward when we don't want to row or sail. It's big, comfortable, can carry everything we would want. That can cause a few problems too, as far as stowing it on the boat. We carry her on davits that are extra strong, and I put a large 4-inch drain hole in the back underneath the airtight seat here that we pull out so that if we ever do get pooped, it'll drain rather rapidly, plus a regular 1-inch one in a low spot.
Yeah, 4-inch sounds adequate.
Yeah.
Kind of like a large fire hose,
pretty
actually.
big, yeah.
How long have you had it?
Well, we've been, I guess it would be 3.5 years now. 3.5 years. Yeah.
And have you had any other dinghies in your life?
Oh yes, many dinghies.
So compare them to other ones you've had.
Well, let's see. There's the old Optimus Pram, which is a great little thing for small people. The 5-year-old's learning to sail. It's great, and you can row it fairly easily as long as there's not a lot of waves. There's so many other dinghies that I've had. Some sail better, but aren't anywhere near as stable. This one is a really good compromise for cruising dinghy because it carries a huge load, is extremely stable. I can walk all the way around the gunnel without it tipping over, pull myself in from the water without swamping. It's a substantial boat.
What's the biggest reason you chose this type of dinghy?
I wanted an aluminum dinghy. And while I did look at other designs that were perhaps a little more graceful and might row better and even sail better, they were tippy because of it. It's the balancing act that you have to do in boat design, just like airplane design or anything else. This one had been built in aluminum. The other ones I was going to experiment trying to build a wooden boat design in aluminum. And the weights and everything's a little different when you change materials. So the other reason I chose it is that it is a single chine hull that requires a lot less welding than a multi-chine hull, and a lot less cutting.
And did you do it MIG?
Yes, I have a MIG set up on my big boat. When I first bought it, it was a project, and I weld with an alternator, actually, a very large alternator, and some circuitry designed by Xena, a company that makes the alternators as a welder.
I want to repeat that, if you guys didn't get it. Conrad has a device on his boat that he can actually weld with the energy coming from his prime mover. So he starts the diesel engine, and he can do major welding projects on his boat.
I thought it was the best way to set up because we're still not finished. I weld every week, it seems.
Well, how do you push this thing around? How can you make it move?
Primarily downwind or anything off the wind, we sail because it's easier. When I first built the dinghy, I used a laser sail from an old laser, and I hemmed over the luff and put grommets in so I could attach it with rings to the mast. And it was adequate, but not convenient. Then I built this sail, which is the rig is so much more, the balanced lug rig is so much more convenient for dinghy sailing, that you sail more if it's easy to put up. And then I put lazy jacks on so we can drop it and leave it right there, and raise it and drop it easily. Just pull a string, you know.
And you chose cotton for this sail, is it?
Well, yes. Some friends of ours gave us some old curtains right before we left, and we said, fabric, great, and had this in mind, also as well as many other projects. Originally there might have been some slip covers for our cushions, but a sail was way more important. So cotton is really nice for sail material because it doesn't, natural fibers don't break down to the sun like synthetics. Of course, the thread is synthetic thread and will probably have to be restitched well before the fabric wears out. The problem, of course, with synthetics, with natural fibers, is that they can rot. So, you know, you used to see, well, there's a lot of photographs out there of all the schooners in the bay raising their sails after a rain at anchor to dry them out, you know. It was just what you did. It's not really an issue when you're cruising because if you sail, you raise the sail pretty much every day and it dries out. So when we travel, I'll probably just bag it all up and put it on deck. Or leave it right in the dinghy is probably a better idea because you never know when you might have to get into the dinghy.
Sure. Yeah. And you don't put a sail cover on it because it's better with sun than it is with wet.
It's nice. I really wanted to build the sails for my mothership out of cotton, but the price was just, I couldn't find enough curtains.
We still have to do a tour of the mothership. It's really a unique boat. Okay, that's not it. You have lots of ways of making this move.
I do. This is the one we use the most. It's just sculling oar. Let me see if I can do it left-handed just because for the camera, it just moves us along. Now I'm pulling temples. But it's very, very handy because you don't need to get out the oar locks, pull out the two oars, and you're all this wide and you can't get into docks and they come up against the boat and all that stuff. Sculling is just slow and easy. Just move it along. And it works well. It also works really well when you're sailing, like today. Not much wind. Well, we're going ashore, well, we'll raise the sail and we'll, what I call motor sail, and just easily scull along. You can steer with that oar just by holding it the correct angle. In lots of wind, directly downwind, it gets a little exciting. But it's really handy also when it's blowing hard, for instance, in that marina, to get out, raise the sail, let it luff, go to windward. Once you get around the dock, you can sail. So it works really well. Of course, we have 2 oars, so we can row from 2 different stations. When I'm by myself, I sit here. With 2, I row from forward. And I rowed this thing for the better part of a year before we hooked up the engine and got it going in some really stiff wind and currents. And it rows really well. It's almost like the old wooden canvas canoes that are heavy. People who canoe race on lakes like those heavy boats, because once you get that mast moving, it doesn't stop at every wave. And the same thing with once you get this thing going, it's a heavy boat. It keeps going.
Yeah, and it has that shape for rowing.
And it does. It is a displacement hull. It's not a planing hull. So this little motor that's older than I am works great. It moves it along at its 5 or 6 knots without a problem, and burns hardly any fuel, but does burn a lot of oil. It's a 10-to-1 mix.
Yeah. Well, the question we always ask: can it plane?
Yeah, I mean, I've never tried, but you know, it would get kind of squirrely. It's like when you start planing in this thing, it gets a little yahoo.
I think you'd need our 20-horse to even try too. Well, what do you love about it?
Everything. Yeah, I love everything except for its weight. Although I do like its weight for its performance, but when we are underway, it's a lot of weight aft, and so for balancing the mothership, it probably adds to some hobby horsing that we could do without.
I guess you kind of answered this, but what don't you like about it?
Yeah.
Anything else beyond the weight? Come on, we all build something and we'd say, I would change this one little thing.
I would add another 8 square feet of sail to the sail area. When I built this sail, I added like 4 or 5. And it's for light airs, it's lacking. So I put in 3 reef points. We've only ever reefed it once, and we've sailed in 35 knots of wind. We don't normally reef until about then, and it did very well. So I put in 3 reef points in case we ever have to get into it and try and be steering out of the eye of a storm, and then we can possibly hold some steerage for a little longer. So I would add another 8 square feet of sail to this, and I'm thinking about possibly putting a little bowsprit on and a 8 square foot jib.
Well, knowing you, these will happen. You're going to do these things. What do you carry in it? You know, supplies and things.
Oh, goodness.
What's your everyday carry?
This is it right here. And a good-sized anchor. We started off with a tiny little anchor. This anchor here has held the big boat off of the docks before, once you get it set. But I like having that big enough Danforth that it's substantial, because when the waves are pounding it into rocks, it's nice to be able to hold it off. A bit of chain, and we have our Baler, which is actually kind of cool. Snaps right up underneath there. It's just a trash bucket, but it's flat, so it scoops along the bottom, smooth bottom, and just takes out huge amounts of water really quickly when it rains. Fishing. I have more fishing gear up in the forward compartment, and I've got spare oar locks, spare plug, spare little plug. We have in the aft one, I have the old sail, of which this yard goes on top of the long section to make it taller for the Marconi rig, but everything is right here, so we can switch sails if we need to, if we lost one or something. I don't know. But we got it.
Now we know why it weighs 250 pounds.
Yeah. Well, now this is without that stuff. It weighs more than that. Then I've got, what else do we have back there, Meredith? We really want to add a handheld water maker, but the one that we have is now currently on the big boat as a primary water maker. So we want to put one of those in here. It would be awful nice. And a couple of jugs of water would be just good to have anyways. It's our lifeboat. Yes.
I was going to probably say,
oh, absolutely.
They have a life raft.
Yes, we do not have a life raft. First of all, it's more weight on our boat that we hope would never have to use. And second of all, from what I've read, I would rather get into a hard dinghy than a life raft, if it's a substantial enough boat. Oh yes, I do have a parachute cone drogue in there also and line, so that we can try and sit to the waves if we were in got stuck in this thing in a bad situation.
I see flotation chambers, so it's not like it's going to go down if it's completely
so the original one has the forward flotation chamber designed in, which is enough to keep the boat above water with a 15 horsepower engine on it, because his son flipped it once somehow and it saved it. But I put the rear seat also, which gives a tremendous amount more flotation at both ends. So I wanted to do that because I could envision ourselves at some point being in a lifeboat situation, in something where you would be spending the night turning over and over and have the boat filled with water, right? I don't want the boat to be sitting by its nose. I want to be able to be with it.
Yeah. If you were alone in the ocean, even without waves, and you only had the front flotation, I don't think you could possibly bail it again.
No, it would be, you possibly could if you got it upside down and then righted it. Because then you wouldn't,
pumped air in.
Yeah, that'd be, you know, just like when you flip a regular sailing dinghy. That
anyway, it was wise to put the second chamber in. Talk about maintenance, repairs, spares. What do you do to keep it going?
Nothing. Scrape the bottom. Well, we didn't put bottom paint on because it's a dinghy that gets dragged up on the beach and whatnot. We just scrape it. Well, we try to scrape it once a week. It starts getting pretty heavy if we don't, when it's in the water. When we're at a place like this, where it's a high growth situation. Once a week is good, but you start noticing it in steering, especially when you're sailing, when there's an inch of grass and growth on the bottom.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, my galvanized steel oarlocks are, I'd probably use bronze next time, even though it is aluminum. They're not really in the salt water, and I don't think I really have to worry about electrolysis. I do have them separated by a block of Delrin, but the rust that builds up in there requires some grinding with the oarlocks when you haven't used them for a long time to get them to move smoothly. That's about the only kind of maintenance I can think of we've done. If you're looking for a substantial dinghy that's very comfortable to sail, you don't have to sit on the floor. You can sit on the side decks. You can sit on the seat and have the space to carry it, then it's an unbelievably good dinghy for cruisers, because it carries a very good load, and it sails well and it rows well. It does its job very nicely. But if you don't have the space to carry it, then it won't do you any good. It's also extremely durable. I mean, I don't foresee having any kind of structural gouges, cracks, problems in my lifetime.
So Meredith, what do you think of this dinghy?
I love this dinghy. Of course, it's my first dinghy, but I feel safe, secure. I can move it if I need to, but luckily I don't really need to because my captain does that. So it's, yeah, I love it. I love it. It's super cool. Feels like a second home, if that makes any sense. Like our RV, you know, kind of thing. It's our main car. It's our Cadillac.
more like a
Volvo.
truck.
A truck, yeah, it's our truck. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no, it's good. I love it. Another nice thing about her is, like we said, it's our life raft. Like, I would feel so much more comfortable getting in this and leaving Tla Hla than I would in a flotation life raft, because we can actually hopefully maneuver her and get her going in a direction that will be helpful and not just, you know, at the whim of the storm. So anyway.
Well, and the other thing is you use it every day, right? So it's not like, oh my gosh, how does the life raft even work?
Yeah, true.
You
That's
just
true.
hop in and go, right?
Yeah.
And Shinola likes it pretty good. Yeah.
And you have a hat that matches your sail.
Everything needs to be repaired.
Hat needed a patch. We had some extra sail material, our Hope sail material.
What's your favorite thing about the dinghy?
Aesthetically, I think she's gorgeous. So maybe that's it. And the safety I feel in her. So yeah. But I think she's pretty awesome. She matches Tla Hla, the mothership, pretty well. And my love made it. So awesome.
I'm Conrad, and this is an alu dink.
Man, I got a big dinghy. All I ever do is smile. Lord, I got a big dinghy. All I ever do is smile. Man who's got a big dinghy can go the extra mile. You know what I'm talking about.